Trump thought he could just walk in and walk out of Iran like he did in Venezuela. Clearly that isn't the case.
Yeah.
He's just getting mired ever more.
With these two local ladies living incredibly close to the RAF base. So how does it feel living here when the base is active?
When it's active like this, it's an intrusion into everyday life. You just heard the B-1s go over. The noise they make is quite incredible. It's not just the takeoff noises. It's the testing of the engines and the refuelling and the noise that comes from the base in general. Normally, the base is relatively quiet. It's a couple of flights a day and it's in routine, but this is out of hours flying, even if the commercial stuff they've got come in, not necessarily the military stuff. So it is impacting on day-to-day life.
Yeah, also the smells. We're getting constant fumes from the base when they're running the engines.
And how do you feel that this is all for an illegal war of aggression? That was a war of choice. It's an unnecessary war.
Well, I think it's absolutely appalling. I'm not anti-US bases. My husband works on the base and is ex-USAF. But I do think in an illegal war, in an unprecedented war, in an uncalled for war, in a solo war, well, America and Israel, I think it's absolutely appalling. And I don't think we ought to be supporting military action unless it's sanctioned even.
Yeah. Exactly that. We're not going up against North Korea or anything. This is just a war of choice. Yeah. Absolutely pure and simple. War of choice.
So do you think your feelings are shared by most of the people in this community?
Not everybody, no. But I think the majority feel the inconvenience. I think most people don't like the idea of innocent civilians being targeted, which has been the case a lot of the time. I think most people would not like the injustice of the war, but I do think a lot of people are pro-USAF having bases, and if it's needed for defence, then they're pro-USAF. But we don't think this is defence, this is purely aggression.
Iran is no threat to us at all, you know. Yeah, exactly. It's never invaded anyone, and the first attack was an attack on a girls' school. Killing.
Yeah, because their info was out of date, because Trump managed to sack, hundreds of Middle Eastern.
Well, I'd say it came off information from Israel, and it was very intentional.
Really? I thought it was just that they'd sacked so many of their Middle East specialists in the CIA and the Foreign Office, and they brought them all home in September last year. So they're not going to have the most up-to-date intel. I hadn't thought about it being.
After 2.5 years of genocide where children have been massacred, so and there is AI running a lot of this as well. So are you scared about the prospect of our system being completely captured by Israel and AI escalating to a point where it's going to take over a lot of our system as well?
I think you've got to be careful of the stuff that's out there, because it's very, very good. I mean, I've been loving the stuff that's been coming out of Iran, the anti-Trump stuff. I think that is absolutely brilliant. I think that's a really good use of AI. But when you fake situations, fake bombings, fake stuff like that, then...
Well, it's also our systems like our NHS. Palantir is now taking control of our data through our NHS, and Palantir just got a new contract.
It's the police, and that's worrying. Yeah. That is worrying.
Yeah.
That there's so much kind of invasion like that into our data.
Yeah.
And that is an invasion.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Talk to your communities.
Tell me about this alliance. What's it called? The UK Alliance for Iran.
Well, we have established an organization called Iran-UK Alliance for Iran, and soon we will launch, I think next weekend on 2nd of May. And we are trying to make a good relationship between Iran and the UK, whether financially, political, and I think these two countries can become allies. Because I don't think that the US or Israel are UK allies anymore, so we need a replacement, and no country better than Iran, is it?
Yeah. So is this operating with the UK government or more with oppositional parties?
Well, no, actually we are completely separate from both governments.
Right.
Yeah, we are trying to be in touch. The first statement that we are going to publish, I think we are in touch with committee. but we are standing against any decision to prescribe IRGC as a terrorist organization. We don't want that because they are the armed force of Iran, legitimate, and they have helped Iranian infrastructures. They are like a charity. They made lots of infrastructures, and they help civilians. We do not accept that. We strongly condemn that, and then we are writing to the government that we will take legal action if they want to do that.
Okay, that's amazing. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank
Mandy.
you.
And the police presence, as you can see, is over the top. We're a peaceful bunch, and they is suggesting that they think we're not. So, yeah, that's why I'm here.
So yeah, you said the English public don't support it. The polls certainly against this war.
Yes.
Right. So why do you think there's not the sort of mobilisation that we saw for Iraq?
I'm not sure why people aren't out in their thousands.
Maybe a bit jaded, possibly.
Maybe, yeah. Or they just feel powerless, which is what this government, is wanting us to feel, so that we don't disrupt the status quo.
Although the British government is claiming that it's not part of this war, it is from this base, Fairford, that B-2 bombers are flying to Iran and bombing Tehran and other cities and dropping 2,000-pound bombs on facilities, residential areas. And it's just such massive war crimes. British government is actively involved, and I think that it needs to be exposed.
Bombing on your country is really difficult because all our families there, and that is our homeland. And as Iranian, we are so sensitive on our homeland, and so it's really difficult, and especially when you live in a country that they support part of this war.
Effectively, it's terrorism because they've tried everything on Iran, from economic sanctions to propaganda, psychological warfare, and now it's reached that point. And effectively, I don't want to live in a world where there isn't, that anyone can just go and crush somebody's house and kill their kids and bomb schools, and there's no, we're the only force left to try and to fight for a kind of law and order, essentially, because the law and order's gone out the window. It's been bought by the Zionist machine. It's been taken over by that. We can see,
What do you think about Iran's efforts to stick to law and order? And they've tried to negotiate. They've tried to do things by the Western rules. Yeah. Do you think they've demonstrated that to the world, that they're actually playing by the books?
Oh, definitely. They said an eye for an eye. They didn't want to go to war. They haven't been to war in, I think it's like 200 years. Look at how many wars the US has done in 200 years. We can see who is the aggressor in this situation, and it's not Iran. But if somebody comes smashing down your door, you've got nothing to do except to be able to defend yourself. And it's ironic that they call this defence, because we're not having someone bashing our doors down or smashing our kids' schools with bombs and having to fear them taking a bridge out in infrastructure, and oil refineries being blown up, and the chemicals that are released as a result of that, and suffering from that. We don't have to fear that, so we're not in it as a defence, we're in it as an offence.
Did you hear about the stabbing in London that happened?
Yes,
yeah?
yes.
Do you feel like our voices aren't really protected by the police or by the movement? How are you feeling about...
I don't think that our voices are protected by the police, and I think that because of many years of systematic demonization of Iran, I don't see that there is effective mobilization in support of Iran the same way that you see, say, for Palestine. And although Iran is in the forefront of anti-imperialist struggle in the world, I can say, but it has been systematically demonized, and part of the people who have played active role in it have been the Iranians, so to speak, Iranians outside of Iran that have demonized Iran.
Well, and they've been used as well, haven't they? So their voice is platformed by our media, Even the alternative media hasn't done a.
No,
they haven't interviewed enough of the other side, have they?
I can say that even within the Stop the War coalition, within Palestine Solidarity movement, people who are actually well intentioned as well, they have received so much brainwashing, so much propaganda against Iran that has been not so easy to mobilize. But I can see that it's getting better.
It's definitely getting better.
When you see people in the streets of Iran for 55 nights, they have been coming under rain and snow and bombardment, and they have mobilized, protected the streets against the war.
Would you say that the people in Iran are fully behind their government?
In no country, all people
Not
are fully
all
behind.
people, but
I
overwhelming
can say,
feeling.
I can say that I have never seen such unity and such strength of feeling in support of Iran, and actually in support of the Islamic Republic of Iran, which is at the forefront of this struggle. This would not have happened to Iran had it not been because of the position Iran had at the forefront of anti-imperialist struggle in support of Palestine and for liberation in the region.
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, Stop the War and PSC are very powerful organisations. They can mobilise very effectively. Do you think it's fair enough for us to really start putting pressure on them and asking what actually are they doing to mobilise in support of Iran?
I think that we must do that, and I think we must actually take issue with that anti-Iran narrative, this reference to the regime, Islamist, all these actual Zionist discourse. And because how can you actually mobilize against the war, which at the same time you are calling the government of that country a regime, and attack it? They should not actually take part in that sort of demonization themselves. Then they can mobilize against the war.
Because often the focus is on Zionists or royalists, but there's actually lots of Iranians and not just Iranians, but the pro-democracy movement, such as people like Samira Moyadin, who, is a good journalist in many regards, but and very anti-war, right? But then at the same time, she was celebrating Europe prescribing the IRGC earlier in the year. I mean, those two...
I don't believe that, because how can you be at war and then you don't support the military force of a country who is fighting that war?
So what would you like to say to Iranians like her, who are very intelligent, very anti-war, but towing a very odd position?
I can say that it is the Islamic Republic of Iran and it is the Islamic Revolutionary Guards and the army who are fighting this war and are protecting the people of Iran. You cannot say, I support Iran, but I'm against the IRGC.
Yeah. And they could be made prescribed very soon in this country, where we won't even be able to talk about them.
Yes.
So are you worried about that?
I am worried about that, and I think that we need to campaign against that. And enlighten people about what it means.
There's a campaign being discussed. So national marches for Iran, there are only about 10 to 50,000 at the marches that they had, the ones organised by Stop the War and PSC. What do you think about those efforts, that result?
It's very sad, because if you join all the dots, essentially it's the Greater Israel Project behind it, and Palestine is okay. So Iran has to defend itself. That doesn't mean it's an aggressor. Essentially, it's trying to hold on to what is left of the Middle East in terms of its indigenous population before it gets wiped out completely and taken over by Israel, which is an extension of the US. Well, they're both a Zionist entity. So. And then we're really looking at a very gloomy situation, because these people don't care about, the general citizen in Britain. They care about money, they care about their wealth, they're billionaires. We've got nothing in common with them, and they try and win people over and say, oh, these people are a threat, these people, and people think they're foreign and they're a threat, which is ridiculous, but that is how propaganda works, because nobody would agree to, having bombs loaded onto planes and sent off to foreign countries otherwise.
In a country that's kind of accepting this, even though the polls are saying people are against this in the majority, but where is that? Where can we see that? Where is that visible?
This should be the point at which people do rise, essentially, yeah. Otherwise, we're just going to get trapped. That foot of tyranny is going to come crushing us down. So, yeah, although they want us to feel powerless, and they will probably make it out on the internet because they obviously have their trolls and whatnot to make it seem that you're alone and that the tide is against you.
You should be silenced. If not, we're gonna hurt you, we're gonna kill you. And they say that in the social media. They showed that in the street, as we know, as we saw those videos. They stopped the protester.
Do you think there's a connection between those kind of people and the rioters in January in Iran?
Of course, and absolutely, I'm sure that there is, because during that protest in Iran, this was the son of Shah. They asked the people, the writer in Iran, to go to the street, and even Trump said that we gave weapon to Iranian protester, and even in, I think, Channel 14, they mentioned that we are with you, protester on the ground. What does it mean? That means we are fighting with you.
And they had weapons. There were Mossad bullets, Israeli bullets found. And these were highly trained individuals.
We got training on how to behave in this protest, how to kill people. A normal person can't do that. You need to really be trained very well.
Yeah. And they're using the same tactics in London now, and people really need to be outraged about this, because you can't control that kind of violence. You have to, you can't use it for your own benefits. It's going to spill over into areas that they can't control.